Alright guys, another video here, and now we're going to be comparing two different functions, okay? We were doing that before, but they were proportional relationships, meaning that they started at 0, 0. So if I had a graph like this, they would start right here at 0, 0 down here, and then they just go up, and that's it. Okay, so now the difference in this is if I had a graph, okay, they could start anywhere. They could start here and go up, right? They could start here, like they could start wherever, right? So that's the difference in these and the ones we looked at before. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to think about these in the form of an equation and in the form of a table. Okay, so on a graph, it's pretty easy to see kind of what's going on. And I'll show you a little quick graph of this equation so you can kind of understand and relate it. Okay. Um, Actually, I'll do that now. Let's just look at the graph of this equation and what it would look like. Okay. So this equation would just look something, and it's going to be a rough sketch of it, right? But the first thing I notice is I have here my starting point is 12. So I would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever. Let's say here. And then I can see it's positive 5. So it's adding 5 something. It's adding 5 miles per gallon. It's adding $5 per hour, whatever it is. It's a positive 5, so it's increasing by 5 for every one, whatever. Okay, dollars per hour, miles per gallon, whatever it is. So that's what this equation, if I graphed it, that's what this equation would look like. Okay, so um, the same way with this table, once we figure kind of out a little bit more information about this table, we can kind of graph it and see what's going on with it also. All right. So what we're going to do is start with this. We have our x, we have our y, and on a graph, remember your x is down here, your y is right here, is up here. Okay. So y goes up, x goes this side, and I'll even kind of make this red so you can see that. So that's red. This is green. Okay. So this is our y. Those are our y's. These are our x's, x values. All right. So the first thing you want to do when you look at a table is you want to find the difference of between your x's and the difference between your y's. So let's look at what are the differences between our x's. Okay, so we start at 2 in our table and we go up to 4, right? We increase to 4, so that's plus 2. And then we went from 4 to 6, that's plus 2. We went from 6 to 8, that's plus 2. So it looks like our x's are increasing by 2 every time. All right. Well, let's look at our y's. Let's check our y's. What are they doing? All right. So we know they're increasing. They're getting bigger, right? 29 up to 53. And that is what, 14, I believe? Yep. So plus 14. And then from here to here, that's also plus. No, I'm wrong. 24? Oh, it's 24. Sorry, guys. 30, yeah, 24. It's 24. And then plus 24. And the same here, plus 24, right? So each time it goes up, each time my y increases by 24, okay, each time my y increases by 24, my x increases by 2. So, and it's always this way. It's always y, change in y, how much your y is changing, how much your y is changing over how much your x is changing, how much your x is changing. So my y is changing by 24 every time my x changes by 2 or increasing. It doesn't always increase, but in this instance, it's increasing by 2. Okay. So we have 24 divided by 2. Well, what is 24 divided by 2? Because our goal is to figure out what is it doing every one something, right? Like every one, this could be every 1 hour, right? How many dollars do I make? And so 24 divided by 2, so it would be $12, $12, so $12 every 1 hour. And in 2 hours, I'd make $24. In 3 hours, I'd make $36, right? In 4 hours, you see what it's doing here. Now, here's the trick, and some of you are already kind of probably realizing, like, well, wait a minute. You said in 2 hours I should make $24. But in this instance, I didn't make 24, right? In 2 hours, I made $29. So there's something going on here. And the thing that's going on here is we didn't start at 0, 0. Remember how I just told you? Here, this equation, it started at 12, right? It started way up here. It didn't start at 0, 0. And that's the difference here, is that this table didn't start at 0, 0, just like this equation didn't start at 0, 0. If this equation started at 0, 0 or at 0, there wouldn't be a 12 here. There'd be nothing here. It'd just be y equals 5 times x, and that would be it. So let's look at how to figure out that. You can kind of figure it out just by doing math here. If you find the rate and know, well, it's supposed to be 24 at 2, but it's 29 at 2. But let's look at a way we can do this. So let's see what the change in our y is if we went the other way, and let's look at what our change in x would be if we went the other way. Okay, so instead of going down the table, what if we went up the table? And what if we went up the table and we subtracted 2, or we changed it by 2, from here to here is 2, but if we went back 2, what would this be? Let's see, we went from 8 to 6, 6 to 4, 4 to 2, 2 to 0. It would be 2 to 0, okay? And when you hit 0, that's your starting point. That's where we start, right? Well, if we did the same thing with our y's, right? If we went 101, we went, 24, 24, 24. If we went at 29 and we went back 24 more, it'd be 29 minus 24 would equal 5. So at 0, and we could look at this at different, plenty of different ways. If I worked to 0 hours, I'd already have $5. Maybe they give me a signing bonus or something, $5. If I already had a certain amount of, or I already started my trip 5 miles away from my house before I needed any gas or something like that, right? So that's what this 5 means. I didn't have to do anything yet to get to this 5. All right. And then starting here, every 2 whatever, I got 24 whatever. So every 2 hours I made $24 from this start. Okay. But this is an easy way to be able to do it. You can also do it just like we did it here, and you can compare, and say, well, it's supposed to be $24 every 2 hours. Here it's $29 every 2 hours, so it must be a difference of 5. Okay? You can also do it that way. So there's a lot of different ways, but just kind of understand the concept of what's happening here. How are we figuring out what's going on? This is our starting point, though. This is our y-intercept, which is the same thing. And our y-intercept is this point right here. That's our y-intercept on a graph, and it's called a y-intercept because it intercepts, it connects, it crosses the y-axis right here. All right. So we know everything now about this table. We can answer these questions. So our y-intercept here is just 5. That's our answer. That's our y-intercept. Okay. And then our rate of change, we already found it. It was $12 every 1 hour. We've already figured it out. It was $12 every 1 hour. Or 12 over 1. Or just 12. And it's 12 whatever. We don't know what it is. We can, you can make something up and say it's $12 every 1 hour if you want. But it's 12. Or 12 over 1. Either one. That's totally fine. Okay? Is our rate of change. All right. And then the equation is way easier. Okay. We don't have to do a lot of calculations and stuff. We already figured out that our y-intercept for our equation was just 12. This number, whenever you see a linear equation like this, the equation that we're used to, whatever is the number with no variable, that's our y-intercept. Done. Right there it is. Okay. And then our rate of change is just the other number in the equation. It's just the other number. It's this guy. It's right there. It's always going to be with the x. It's always connected to the x. Okay. And so it's just 5. And you could write it as 5. You could write it as 5 over 1. Right? Those are the same thing. But that is your rate of change for this equation. All right. And on a graph, like I said, this is how it would look. You'd start here at 12 and you go up in a positive direction because you start at 12 and you increase 5 every one something. $5 up for every 1 hour over. All right. So that's kind of breaking down a table and an equation and kind of seeing a general understanding of a graph. All right. So that's it. You compared two functions. Thanks.